The situation remains extremely volatile, and last night's escalation that we saw with over 120 projectiles that peacekeepers detected coming from Lebanese territory going toward Israel, and a response of again over 120 projectiles coming from Israel to Lebanon, along with 7 airstrikes. This is obviously creating a very difficult and very tense situation. Peacekeepers continue to monitor and report on the ground, but of course, in the security situation, our job has become much more difficult. We're continuing to liaise with the parties to urge de-escalation and to try to restore some of the security and stability that we've seen. But obviously, the situation right now is very difficult, and we just urge the parties to exercise restraint to avoid the situation from spiraling out of control. We're observing a lot of projectiles going back and forth across the blue line. I'm not going to speculate on what the intentions are, but peacekeepers are working around the clock to monitor and report what's happening to make sure that the Security Council is aware, the international community is aware, and we're working with the parties to urge de-escalation, because our position is that there is no military solution to this conflict. We need to open the path toward a political and diplomatic solution and continue down that path, because this is the way to restore security and stability for the benefit of civilians living on both sides of the blue line. Peacekeepers track violations of Resolution 1701, slightly different from the ceasefire, but our mandate is based in Resolution 1701. So these are the statistics that we track. We have seen well over 10,000 violations since the ceasefire period. I think we might be up to around 15,000 violations now, and these are from both sides. We saw, of course, before this recent escalation, we saw mainly violations coming from the Israeli side in terms of airstrikes, in terms of overflights by Israeli airplanes, and projectiles coming into Lebanon. We did see a few projectiles being fired from Lebanese territory to Israel at the time. Those were very few, but we did also continue to discover weapons caches that had been left behind from the previous conflict in Lebanese territory. So we did see a number of violations at the time, and of course, this has escalated exponentially since the escalation of hostilities in the last week or so. Peacekeepers reported a number of weapons caches that were discovered in Lebanese territory that had perhaps been left behind from the previous conflict, but nonetheless, the presence of any weapon in Lebanese territory that it does not belong to Lebanese authorities or peacekeepers, that is a violation of Resolution 1701. So those are recorded as violations. And we did see a handful of trajectories, less than 2 dozen, I believe, that were fired from Lebanese territory to Israel before this recent escalation. Peacekeepers don't have the capacity to test or monitor for these kinds of things. We do know that in at least one instance in the past, we did record the use of white phosphorus that we had tested that was used near one of our bases. So we do know that this has been used. I can't comment on what may have happened recently, but we do see that there is a lot of activity, a lot of violence happening along the blue line, and in whatever means or method that is happening, we urge the parties to exercise restraint. The peacekeepers are recovering. One remains in hospital. He was the most seriously injured. He is stable, but he is recovering well. UNIFIL has launched an investigation. That investigation is underway. We do not have the results yet. When the results are complete, they will be shared with the parties. We're in constant contact with the parties, and of course, we encourage all parties to avoid any activity that harms peacekeepers and that harms civilians, because civilians are the ones who suffer in conflict. And what peacekeepers are here to do, in part, is to create a secure and stable environment where people eventually can return to their normal lives and live and thrive. Of course, we encourage and we speak to the parties all of the time to encourage them to avoid any activities that would harm civilians. And again, peacekeepers are here. We've taken some requests and facilitated the requests of some people to leave villages where they don't feel safe and to take them to safer areas.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.